guys! With the start of the school year approaching, both for a lot of high schools, middle schools, and colleges, I figured I'd make an advice video on how to prepare yourself on what's to come. First, I see you. You're super motivated. You're watching videos on how to improve your academics in your spare time. Do you potentially want to improve your SAT or ACT score? Well, look no further than to Prep Scholar, the sponsor of today's video. They helped me to get a 1600 on my SAT back in 2020, and they have a really great digital SAT course and an ACT course that's made by top test takers, so they really know what they're doing. They know what to have you focus on to do the best that you can do. They guarantee a 160-point increase on your SAT score, and with their high-quality question banks and really good videos that go into depth about like all the concepts you'll need, I also guarantee that you can improve your score by that much if you check them out. You can get $50 off their online SAT or ACT course in the description down below, or if you don't want to do that, just check out the other videos on my channel for improving your SAT score. But anyway, I've gone through too many years of school at this point, and some have been better and more successful than others for me. So here's all my advice on what's worked for me and what hasn't worked so well. Spoiler alert, doing better in school is not about taking the most aesthetic notes or having the newest and best hyped up products, though of course that can all be fun. It's really all about your mindset. The most important thing to do before you get back to school is to do a reflection of your past year, or your last semester. An unexamined life is not worth living, and an unexamined semester or a school year is not worth getting through. I spend way too much time being introspective, for better or for worse, so I personally love this step more than I love actually changing things for the future. But during this reflection, ask yourself the hard-hitting question. Did you meet your academic and professional goals? Did you get burnt out at all? What are some things that you can change to make things better for yourself? Have a better work-life balance? It's important to balance your goals with everything else you need to take care of in your life, otherwise you're just asking for burnout. One way I like to figure out what areas I need to improve on is using this little wheel. I can't remember where I originally found this, but it's definitely a very common bullet journal page online. You can make the categories as broad or as narrow as you want. You can make it about every category in your life, or just about academics for now. Each section of the wheel represents something you want to focus on or improve on, and how much you color in each section indicates how content you feel with that portion of your life right now, how far you've gotten in that goal. If you're focused on just academics, it might be nice to make every single one of your classes a different section, or you could focus on the different ways you like to study and prepare. For making an overall wheel of your life, I like to include things like physical health, mental health, social life, family, academics, professional goals, and hobbies. It's really flexible, it's really just for you, so do whatever you want with this. It might be good to make two of these wheels, one with the amount of effort and time you're putting into each category, and the other with the results that you're getting. After you do this reflection on each of these sections, do your little coloring, you'll be able to see where the gaps in your life are, or where the gaps in your academics are, and what tends to be the most challenging for you and has the lowest payoff between the effort you're putting in and the results you get. Now, it's important to ask yourself, since you have limited time, if you want to be evenly balanced, or do you want to focus all of your energy on improving one thing for the next few months. My roommate and I would actually talk about this a lot when we lived together, and they helped me come to the revelation that these circles are like the character points in Dungeons and Dragons. You can choose to focus the points that you have, or like your time and energy, however you want, but based on your personality and what subjects you're best at, some things might come much more naturally than others. So it's up to you where you focus your time and energy, and if you want to be super cracked at one thing that you're already pretty good at, or put that work in, focus on the most challenging categories, even if you're not getting that huge reward. There are pros and cons to every way you're going to divide up your time, and realistically, you're not going to have time for everything, so learning what you're okay with letting fall through the cracks is a really important skill to have in your academics and in your life that can help you focus where you want to study and how you want to divide up your time in general. In addition to these wheels, write down your goals before your classes start, or right at the beginning of the school year. Whether that's maintaining a 4.0 or passing a certain class you've failed before, writing down what you want helps you work to that goal more concretely. Now think back to what's held you back in the past and what you can do to change it. Being honest with yourself here is really important, and it can be super hard. Here's my case study from my sophomore year of college. That was a very rough school year for me. I really struggled in my thermodynamics class, and it was because I didn't have a fundamental understanding of the physics behind what was happening. So I wasn't able to solve problems that were in a new form that I was unfamiliar with, and that led to me struggling on all the exams. So I knew that these issues weren't just going to go away the next semester, and they would actually build on each other, because all the classes tend to do that, especially if you're taking classes for your specific major. I knew it would only get harder for my mass and heat transfer class. So what did I do? I came up with actionable things that I could do to improve how I study. Because obviously what I was doing was not working. I made plans to use other sources to supplement my learning besides just my lectures and the textbook for the class. Professors and teachers will always vary. They might not always match your learning style, so thank God the internet exists. You can find resources that work for you, even if your resources that are given to you in school aren't working for you. I also focused more on solving practice problems of different types, and I tried to solve them earlier on when I didn't fully know the concepts yet. Over the years, I figured out that that's the best way that I learn. I kind of need to challenge myself with problems before I understand the content, like before I go to lecture, before I'm actively able to absorb what's happening in lecture or what's happening in the textbook when I read it. Otherwise, I'll just zone out and not really know what I'm supposed to be getting out of it. So my new plan was to work a little bit ahead, not necessarily in like a super substantial way, but just in attempting one problem before lecture, attempting the homework set before the lectures that the homework set is on, and then re-attempting it after with the new information that I just learned to better solidify all that information in my mind instead of having it go in one ear out the other. This not only helped me understand the content better and do better on exams, but also gave me a leg up in the homework assignments because I would start them really early compared to everyone else. Even though this was sometimes stressful and frustrating, it really helped me. And it's how I got an A in one of the hardest classes of the chemical engineering curriculum after almost failing my thermal class. The one other big mistake I made in thermo was relying too much on other people to explain topics to me. It's great to get help and collaborate, and the biggest thing we're told is to make use of office hours, ask for help, but I was leaning too much on others, to the point where I wasn't fully conceptually understanding what I was learning, which meant I didn't know where the biggest gaps of my knowledge were until I was finally attempting it on my own for one of the first times when I was taking the exam. And obviously, that's super stressful. So you have to be honest with yourself. Are you leaning too much on others for your homework sets? Or do you think you know the content well enough to where you could teach someone else it? Anyway, that's my example of how I assess myself after a rough semester or a rough year, and change how I approach my learning. Obviously, this will be deeply personal to you. It definitely depends on your classes, goals and priorities, and how much effort you want to put in compared to your other commitments. In doing this, don't be too hard on yourself, but also don't make excuses. Instead, focus on the things you have control over and can change for next semester or next year. Doing this after a particularly rough semester helped me go from being a B student to a straight A student in the span of one semester. My next tip is to try to get information about your classes from people who have already taken them. They're going to be one of your best resources. Try to get the materials or the textbook ahead of time so you can brace yourself for what's coming. At least for me, it doesn't help to try to get ahead in a class, since I don't really retain what I get ahead on for long enough for it to make an impact. But I think the more important thing to do is to brush up on the fundamentals that you know you'll need if you need some refreshers or maybe didn't do too well the last semester. ChatGPT, while it's bad at a lot of things, is honestly not bad at all for telling you what fundamental skills you'll need to help with certain subjects. So I'd recommend asking it if you're not sure and you want to go that extra mile, or even entering the syllabus or the topics covered in your class that you're worried about to see what it recommends you brush up on ahead of time. You can tell it to follow the 80-20 rule, which is this rule for learning that 20% of the time you spend learning can help you master 80% of a subject. My final tip is to make sure you talk to people in your classes on the first few days so you can ask for help when you do need it. Everyone's very anxious to make new friends during the first few weeks of classes, so don't be worried about being overbearing or annoying if you're anxious about that. Having at least a few people in class who you feel comfortable texting when you need an explanation on the homework is essential, since sometimes the difference between completing an assignment and turning it in late or not completing it at all is having that extra little bit of help when you need it. And having at least a few people you know in class will encourage you to actually go, and it'll make studying so much easier and more enjoyable if you do it with friends. Also, this is underrated, but don't be afraid to talk to your professors or your teachers. They're real people too. The closer the connection you have with them, the easier it is to pay attention to the content they're teaching, reach out to them if you're having trouble, and ask them for recommendations later on for college or for grad school. Always advocate for yourself, because most of the time, teachers or professors will give you the benefit of the doubt. I've been a teaching assistant, so I've been on the teaching side as well as the student side, and I can tell you I'm overjoyed when a student reaches out or comes to my office hours to talk about something not even related to class, like their professional goals. I can also tell you that I'd never be upset or mad at a student who asked me for more time on an assignment if they had extenuating circumstances, and I'd give it to them in 99% of the cases. But if they never asked in the first place, then I can't do that. I've had to ask for extenuating circumstances on assignments multiple times, especially when I had COVID in the fall of my sophomore year. I had to reach out to all my teachers. It was something I was really scared to do, but it ended up helping me pass that semester and get through a really tough time in my life. Your teachers and professors They're people too. The sooner you start forming connections with them, the better it'll be for you and for them. The most important piece of advice I can give you is to avoid burning yourself out through the school year. It's like running a marathon. You don't want to start at a pace that's ridiculously fast, since it's all about the long game. If you start off super intense, there's a good chance you're not going to be able to maintain that stride for the entire semester, especially when things pick up with clubs and sports and everything else you have in your life. So before the school year starts, be sure you set boundaries for yourself and know what your limits are. Balance your academic life with your social life. Make sure to get some rest and relaxation too. Let yourself doom scroll on TikTok occasionally. Take care of your health. Okay? I know school can be stressful, but it's not the only thing that matters, and it's going to be okay no matter what. So make sure you have a good mindset of getting as much as you can out of school, whether that's connections with other people, learning really cool new things, or figuring out what you want to do with your life. It's not just about trying to get the highest grades or be the most competitive so you can get into college or grad school. It's ultimately about learning how to learn and picking up some cool facts, some interests, and connections along the way. That's how I've been thinking about it, and it served me well and helped me to not stress out so much. I hope this helped motivate you or helped you go into the new school year with a new mindset. Leave your tips for starting the new school year in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and check out that Prep Scholar link, and I'll see you soon.